Ladies and gentlemen, Tony Iommi.
Thanks for coming. Bye-bye. And the singer that we had in Birmingham, we got him in. So the band changed over that period into more or less the band I had in Birmingham.
Right.
Apart from the bass player who was in Carlisle.
And what sort of, because you were big on the circuit up here, weren't you? A lot of bookings, you did really well.
Yes, we done quite well, yeah. I mean, we were playing, we had to play a certain amount of songs that people knew, and then we'd throw our sort of songs that we liked in, more bluesy sort of things.
Because I recently listened, and I'm going to send you a copy to this 1968 concert that I found recorded at the Queen's Head, I think, in Sillett, right? And you're doing numbers, you're playing numbers like Dust My Blues, which a lot of bands did. That's
Everybody did
James
it,
cover.
yeah.
Everybody did it. What really interests me is it's then great guitar playing, but it bears no resemblance to what was to come with Black Sabbath. There's not an inkling there.
No, I think it's weird how it all happened for us, really, because I think it was a period when I left Sabbath. We weren't Sabbath then, we were called Earth, and I went with Jethro Tull. And it was just a very short stay, as you know, and it wasn't right for me, and I came back, and we got the band back together again, with Ozzy and Bill and Grease. And realised then that we need to do something that is different to what, a lot of other people were doing. And that's sort of how it started, jamming around and come up with, the first one was Wicked World, and the second song we did was Black Sabbath, and that was the benchmark of where we went from, and that was, as soon as we'd done that, we said, that's it. This is where it's going to go from here.
And where it must be a difficult question, but where did those riffs come from?
I nicked them off for Led Zeppelin. I don't really know, it's just in the head, and that's sort of the way we worked. We'd go in and I'd start playing something and everybody, I like that, and then we'd build the song up from there, Or they might say, I don't like that, and then we didn't do it. But that's sort of how we worked.
And I think I'm right in saying you were were you quite influenced by jazz guitarists?
Yeah, I liked jazz and I liked blues, and basically once I'd had my accident where I took the ends of my fingers off, which you probably all know, I was the chap who was the manager of the factory I worked at. He brought me a record of Django Reinhardt, and I didn't know Django Reinhardt was at that time, and he explained he had an accident and he uses his two fingers, and I played that record, and blimey, that was it, and I really loved that sort of music. It was gypsy jazz, but then I went into more stuff like Joe Pass, who I really love, a great player. And so I tried to mix the two, and within like Wicked World, there's a bit of jazzy stuff in that one. And Bill was into jazzy stuff as well, because jazz drummers and things. So it sort of worked. So
I'm assuming that at this time, people you were often gigging and you suddenly realised you've got this sound. And first of all, did you learn anything from Ian Anderson in terms of Jethro Tull, in terms of putting a band together and that type of thing?
Yes, I did actually. And I learnt the way they work, and it was very different to how we worked. It was 9 o'clock in the morning rehearsal. Well, we didn't know what 9 o'clock was. So it was, it was quite different. So I come back going to the others, well, 9 o'clock we're going to start work. And I was the only one that could drive then, so I had to pick everybody up to go to the rehearsal, which was cut my own throat there. So anyway, that's what we did, and we got into this regime, and they were willing to do it because I'd been with Jethro Tull. They knew that I'd had that offer and turned it down in the end,
Why did you turn it down?
Well, because we were a band with Ozzy, Bill and Goose. With Jethro Tull, it was weird because when I joined them, and in the first rehearsals, we were going to go, we'd break for lunch at 12 o'clock, and off we went for lunch. And I went and sat with Ian, and the others are going, no. I go, well, what's wrong? They said, no, you don't sit with Ian, you sit with us. And I just thought that was fairly weird, and it's weird now because I really get on well with Ian, and I spoke to him yesterday, and I haven't actually told him this, because he probably went, well, why is he leaving, But it just didn't feel right to me. It didn't feel right. I mean, I was offered all, everything really. I'd had nothing from when we started to being able to be in a band that was doing good and make an album and so on and so on and so on. But I wanted to work myself for it. I remember going to see their manager, and he says, you're really lucky to be in this position. And I went, well, I'm lucky because they want me. It's not because, it's luck. I'm obviously playing the one person they want.
And also there seems to be, and I don't know whether it's just the Italian part, but you've always occurred to me to someone that wants to be literally across everything, controlling everything, really industrious.
Well, I don't know about his controlling it, but it requires somebody in the band. Jethro Tull. Ian was the one who said how it goes. And with us, it was they'd always come to me, and they relied on my opinion and relied on me to do that. And it worked, Towards the end, I didn't like it. I didn't want to be constantly called up. Well, we got a problem, were you going to have a talk with Ozzy or whatever it was, He's not going to do the gig, and whatever the problem would have been. I mean, we had that a few times. Well, it is,
I remember reading somewhere that I don't know what gig it was, but you couldn't find him. And he booked in the wrong hotel or something.
Oh, what happened was we checked in the hotel in Atlanta, and it was a Hyatt house, with the glass lifts on the outside and all that rubbish. And so anyway, we go in there, and Ozzy wasn't feeling that great beforehand, and he drank a bottle of, instead of having a spoon a night nurse, he drank a bottle of night nurse. So, no, this is normal. So we go up to our rooms, and he's walking along the corridor, and of course he sees this room open, he walks in it, and passes out on the bed. And it wasn't his room, of course. All his luggage is in his room. And anyway, it's time for the gig, and we've phoned him up, you ready? To find out if he's ready. No answer. And we sent security up. They opened the door, the bed hasn't been sat on. His luggage is there, and we thought, oh, blimey, where is he? Where's he gone? So we had alerts out, we had the police, we had it on the TV every 15 minutes, we had it on the radio every 15 minutes. We thought he'd been kidnapped or something, trying to get him. And so it was really bad. And I think we had Van Halen on with us then, they were supporting us. and they'd done their spots. And me and Bill and Goose went down to the gig to say, well, we can't do the gig. Because obviously the fans would think, well, we haven't turned up, but we was there. But we just said, we can't find Ozzy. And it became quite a worry, and we were up all night panicking, well, that's happened to him, you know, somebody's bumped him off. Well, you never know over there. And it took about sort of 9 o'clock in the morning, we had a phone call. Hello, it's Ozzy. What time are we leaving? He'd only lost it by a day, you know. So that was it, really.
Because we'll talk about the movie later, but one of the great things that's captured in the end of the end is really the sense of humour that runs through everything between you. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, there was a lot more stuff in it, but we had to cut it down because of the length of time. But yeah, we've always had that sort of, I think it's a main part of of sticking together and enjoying it, you know. You've got to have a sense of humour. And I mean, it was great when Bill was with us, because Bill took the brunt of so much stuff.
Why?
I don't know, because he did. And when somebody accepts it, you pick on them. And it was always like, well, it was me and Ozzy mainly, and then Geezer joining on bits and dabs, you know. And it became a thing. And if you didn't do anything to Bill, he'd go, is everything all right? He'd go, yeah, why? Well, you haven't done anything today. I'm, oh, right, okay.
What was the worst thing you ever did to him, do you think?
The worst thing?
Yeah.
Set him on fire. Oh, it's serious. It was how this, I mean, it sounds bad. Well, it is bad. How it came about was, when we were in the studio, we used to have this party piece where, you know, there's you get the alcohol from that cleans the machines in the studio, the tapes. And you can put it on you and burn it, and it doesn't burn your skin, just a bit of it. It just burns off. And anyway, this one day we were using this new producer, Martin Birch, and we thought, well, we'll do our party piece on him. And I said to Bill, I said, can I set you on fire, Bill? And he went, not just now, I'm busy. So anyway, and I forgot all about it. So Bill went into this is in the studio, Bill went into the studio, I'm in the control room, Bill's fiddling about, and he came back in, he says, I've finished now, do you want to set me on fire? I mean, it's mad, isn't it, really? And so I said, yeah, so I got 2 bottles of this alcohol and tipped it on him, and it just soaked through his clothes. And the producer, he wondered what the hell was going on, and I lit him, and he went, woof, like this. I mean, honestly, it was so bad. And he's rolling on the floor, Bill, screaming, and I thought it was part of the joke. And anyway, we had to get him to hospital. He had 3rd-degree burns, all his legs were burnt. His nylon socks melted. Honestly, God, it was... And of course, that wasn't the end of it. His mum phoned me up. She said, you balmy bastard, it's about time you grew up. So that was one of the worst things I think we've done.
And is it true that the number NIB, is that Bill, named after Bill?
Yeah, we called him Nib. And why we called him Nib, we were in Germany playing at the Star Club, and we were there for, you know, a couple of 3 weeks. And you do things to amuse each other because it's a long time, you know. And Bill had this beard, it was pointed, and I think, well, we had a joint that particular night, and Ozzy happened to say to Bill, you look like a pen nib, Bill. And he went, oh, look, Bill there. And it stuck, and we called him Nib, and we called him Nibby.
I mean, this is it's really more Spinal Tap than Spinal Tap, isn't it? Really?
God,
I mean, it screams for a movie, a movie treatment.
Yeah.
Just got to decide who plays you, really.
The things, honestly, we've done. And when we lived in California, we went to, we had a house that we'd rented off John DuPont, who's the famous DuPont products, the lighters and all that stuff, paint, DuPont paint. And it was his house, a fantastic house. He got a ballroom and everything. Anyway, we rented this house for 6 months, and we'd done an album there. And of course, so we go rummaging around in the garage, and there's all these paints in there. And one night, Bill again came back pissed. So what me and Ozzy decided to do was take all his clothes off, and we got some of the gold paint, and we sprayed him gold from head to toe, honest to God, from head to toe. And not only that, we got some of this clear lacquer, and we lacquered him afterwards. And it was a laugh for a bit, and then he started throwing up, and it got really bad. I thought, oh God, what's happened to him? Anyway, I had to phone the ambulance, and they said, what's wrong with him? I said, well, he sprayed gold. Gold. And anyway, they sent an ambulance out, and God, did they tell us off. I said, you must be mad, because it could have killed him, because apparently his skin wouldn't breathe, and it was convulsions,
I mean, quite frankly, I think you have a new career ahead of you as a stand-up, quite frankly. I think just on a more serious note, talking to Bill, it must have been very disappointing for him not to be playing with you on that final tour.
It was, yeah. It had been nice to have had Bill. But again, Bill, he was up and down himself, In fact, while we were on tour, the last tour, he had a heart problem again. And he did, at one of the rehearsals, have a heart attack. And they had to get him in. And he had some stents put in and whatnot. So we had to carry another drummer around. We carried Vinny around with us. But yeah, it would have been, nice to have done it with Bill. And I still talk to Bill.
You do?
Oh yeah.
And did he come to the final concerts in Birmingham? Was he there?
Bill? No. I don't think he would.
No.
He wouldn't. He actually came, last time Bill came, was in Los Angeles when Ronnie was with us. Bill came to one of the shows, but not with Ozzy.
You're talking about that house, the DuPont house that you got, because you've rented so many different properties and so many situations to write and record in. What was it, that first album, which was done in 3 days, was it?
2 days.
2 days. Regent Sound.
Yeah.
What? Had you been in the studio before?
No, we'd never been in the studio. We had a chap called Roger Bain, who was the producer, and it was new to him as well. He was the trial for the record company as well. They were sort of trying him out with us, with a new band. And we got on well with him, and it worked well. And they'd booked Regent Sound, which was a very small place, very small room. And we had no idea how to record, and it was done that quick. I mean, they stick a mic in front of the cabinet and we play and record it, and that was it. And that's as far as we knew. And that's how we recorded the first album. There was no, sitting in there for an hour getting a sound. It was basically, that was it. We only had 2 days, and that was involving the mixing as well.
And what was the budget?
Cheap. It was something like, I don't know, £800. It wasn't a lot.
But did that once you got into the studio, did that give you a taste for production in the studio once you'd done that?
Not quite at that time, because we didn't know enough about it. I was interested in it, but when we did that album, we couldn't hang around too long because we had to get the boat to Germany. We were playing in Europe. We had a gig in a couple of days, so we basically come out of the studio, off we'd gone, and everything took off from there while we were away.
And when did you become aware? Did you read somewhere this word, this term heavy metal associated with you? Can you remember?
A lot further down the line.
Right.
A lot further down the line. Because we always classed ourselves as heavy rock, you know. And somebody mentioned, I was doing an interview with, I think it was Melody Maker or somebody like that. And they said, well, you were playing heavy metal. I went, heavy metal, what's that? And they said, well, that's what you play. And we'd never admit to being heavy metal, we were always heavy rock. And at the end we gave in, because you know, everybody called it heavy metal, so all right, we're heavy metal.
And it's true to say that the press, I don't know whether it was in America or here, they didn't really like you, did they, very much?
Here, it was, here.
Right.
And I'll never forget, we played a gig in London, and I think his name's something Green, not Peter Green, that's a guitar player. Come to review the show. Anyway, he done us a terrible review, but the thing was, we cancelled the gig, we didn't play. And he reviewed the show that we never played. So he liked us.
Did you ever meet him?
Yes, I met him, yeah.
But I'm sure he was very pleased to see you. But what about America? What about criticism in America? Were you more accepted there?
America was a lot more open for it, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I think it was maybe probably the Rolling Stone that one of the ones that didn't like us at first. But they all come around in the end, you know. But we didn't sort of take it to heart anyway, you know. If they don't like it, they don't like it. What can you do? If they like it and write about it, it's great, you know. It's when they personally have a dig, and I had a problem with a guy from the Melody Maker many years ago, and he came to my house to do an interview, and I picked him up at the station, and I picked him up in a Lamborghini. So you can imagine, can't you, you know. And he came back to the house, and anyway, he was treated well, and well, anyway, then he left after the interview, and the interview was awful. He slagged us terrible. And it was a personal thing, it wasn't the music, it was just really not nice. And I saw him again at a gig, and basically I beat him up. And then, of course, nobody would interview us. Because it's ironic, and I remember we were in America, and of course it got to America about what had happened. And I'm doing all these interviews on the phone, and I'm going, well, what's happened, you know, why don't we do like face-to-face interviews? And they're going, well, they heard about the journalist in England.
Well, someone who I've spoken to for a long time knew that I was talking to you tonight, and they said to me, I hope he doesn't do to you what he did to that guy.
Oh, did they?
Does it, or did it? I mean, did it hurt, the fact that...
It hurt him.
Did it hurt you, the fact that people would just seem to be against you, and also constantly dragging this thing out about the occult as well, and Satanism?
Oh yeah, we had so much from everybody, from the church. A lot of the churches, you know, they'd be demonstrating outside the shows and whatnot, not knowing anything about what the music is. They just see Black Sabbath, oh, that's satanic, and this, that, and the other. They probably never even heard any of the music.
No. But that must have been actually quite frightening, I would think, if you, particularly when religious people start to lobby against you and that sort of thing.
Certainly in America it was, because, you know, out there, you just never know. And we got wrapped up with quite a few things, and then that son of Sam, who'd done all those murders and cited one of our songs while he's murdering them, which was lovely. So it was, we had quite a few things that was...
And this was sort of pre that whole sort of, well, the Judas Priest case in America, backward messages, you know, all of that. I think Ozzy said the only backward message on the record would be buy this fucking record or something.
well, we actually did on one of the records. I think it was, I don't know if it was Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. We put some backward message on it, and it was a joke actually. It was like really funny the right way around. And then we reversed it, so it sounded all this jumble. But yeah, I mean, we got hammered to death with all that stuff. But eventually it came round, you know, and people understood what we were about, understood what, you know, they were about the Vietnam Wars, and a lot of the soldiers and people in Vietnam that was going through all the stuff at the time loved the albums, you know, because they could relate to them.
I discovered, I think I told you this when doing the movie, that I found a list in America published by the record label that gave Bob Dylan his first recordings, and there was a list of the greatest anti-war songs ever written, and you're at the top of it. It's not Dylan, it's Sabbath with War Pigs.
Yeah.
I remember seeing Bill interviewed, and he described, and I mean, he openly wept, because when you opened up with War Pigs, the guys in wheelchairs.
Oh yeah, we had a lot of the soldiers, a lot of people that were badly hurt and no legs, no arms, and we used to have them all down the front, you know. It's yeah, we had a lot of them in them days.
One gig that you did, which a classic, was a gig called the California Jam in 1971, which was an extraordinary performance, and it looks like I know Richie Blackmore blew everybody up at the end on stage. You were well cleared of that. What are your any memories of that California Jam? Because it's bootleg now, you can't get it officially.
Yeah, I do. It was the biggest show. It was 300,000 people, which was a bit nerve-wracking for us, because we weren't going to do that show because there were so many arguments going on between Deep Purple and ELP about who's going to close the show, and we didn't want to get involved in that. We said we don't want to, you know, we don't want to go. We want to close the show, and it got really out of hand, and so we decided we weren't going to do it. And our crew were over in America. We'd sent the crew over with all the gear and everything. And so I had a call about 3 o'clock in the morning from one of the crew saying, "You've got to get out here. There's so many people want to see Sabbath." And I went, "Oh, God." So I found everybody up at like 4 o'clock in the morning saying, we've got to get the next flight out to California. Of course, they all thought I was joking, thinking, well, you know. I said, "No, seriously, we need to get out there. We've got to do this show." So we got everybody together, got on the flight and got out there. So we'd had no rehearsal. We hadn't played for, I don't know, a month or so. No rehearsal. We literally landed, flown in, we went to bed, flown in the next day by helicopter, and did the gig. And we were terrified because, as I say, we hadn't rehearsed, and it was being filmed by ABC and all the TV channels. And we thought, God, if we cock this up, it's going to be there forever, you know. So it was a bit of a
It's an incredible performance. And as you say, ABC TV filmed it, and then they wiped it. The whole thing was wiped. So now, to see it, you have to sort of cut it together from YouTube. But I mean, it's all there, and it's out there. I mean, talking about the product that's been out there prior to End of the End, it's always been a bit patchy, hasn't it, of Sabbath on film. Black and Blue you don't like at all, do you?
No, we weren't happy with Black and Blue because I thought it was a bit of a con the way it was. The manager we had, like a temporary manager at that time, who managed Blue Oyster Cult.
Yeah.
And so basically, it was in their camp. And we were there to boost Blue Oyster Cult, basically. And so he said, "Oh, we're going to do, you know, film the two bands." But he didn't tell us. He was going to put all the footage in from Blue Oyster Cult of stuff in the studio, recorded with a proper sound and this, that, and the other. Of course, we didn't. We just played live. So it was a bit of we weren't that happy about it.
No. And, I mean, I think The Last Supper's really good, but that's been criticised for interview sections in it running at the same time as. But it did good. You like that one, do you? Last Supper.
I can't remember it now.
Right? No.
No, it's been a while. That I mean, we've done so many things since that.
And so many things to me is an operative word, because after Ozzy went, Ronnie James Dio came along, completely different type of singer.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Gave Sabbath so much of a new push, a new audience.
Yeah, well, we wanted that. We wanted. It's no point in bringing another Ozzy clone in, because everybody's going to compare him to Ozzy, and it wouldn't have been fair. So we wanted something that was different. And Ronnie had just come out of Rainbow with Richie Blackmore, and then
I always try and look at the full story of Black Sabbath, and there's so many changes. So many vocalists tried.
Yeah.
There was he a male model, David Donato?
Oh, well, when we auditioned sing. It's weird because we auditioned these singers in Los Angeles, and we had one of them was Michael Bolton, of all people. Honestly, because he used to do rock before he started doing all that.
Yeah.
And we didn't know him then, but we went through a bunch of people who are known now. But Dave Donato sort of came at the end of that, really. And we tried him, and basically he wasn't actually in the band. We were still rehearsing him, trying him. But I think one of the papers done a splash on us and a picture of him. So then everybody's assuming.
Well, he was a bodybuilder, wasn't he?
I think he was a model, yeah.
Yes.
Male model, yeah.
And, all the vocalists, Cozy Powell coming in and out, Tony Martin, that used to be known as the Cat, and Ray Gillan, and the great Glenn Hughes as well. I just really don't know how, and particularly with the news that you had health-wise, how have you survived? What's kept the band together? What has kept you together?
Believing in it, really. I mean, I've always believed in the band, and the fact is, people go, "Well, why did you get rid of so-and-so? Why did you have him?" And the reason is, if somebody leaves, well, what do? You can't say you can't leave.
No.
If somebody's had enough. You have to change them, or if they're not working right, you have to change them and bring somebody else in. And there was a lot shuffling around at one point. I had the drummer out the Clash for one point, Terry Chimes. And even the Ian Gillan thing, we weren't going to call ourselves Sabbath when we had him.
What were you going to call yourself?
The Idiots, I think. We just got together and decided we'd play together and more or less like the super group thing, if you like. And it didn't sort of work that way. It had to be as a Sabbath album. So Ian came in, and so he had to sing the Sabbath stuff,
And you had Bev Bevan with you on drums?
We had Bev Bevan purely because Bill had gone through a bad patch again. He started drinking, and he had to go back into rehab. So I asked Bev, because Bev's been a friend for 50 years, and I asked Bev if I said, "Do you want to come and have a play with us, stand in for a bit?" Because coming from ELO, it's a bit different, really, isn't it? And he said, "Oh, I don't know if I'm powerful enough to do it." And I said, "Come and have a go." Anyway, he came and had a go, and we thought it was going to be a temporary thing, and Bill had get yourself sorted out, give him time. And so, but he ended up doing, a world tour with Bev and Ian.
And Born Again now has been revalued as a very influential. I mean, tracks like Zero, The Hero, are just incredible. And what must be fantastic for you is that, in the end, the lineup has came back together. 13.
Yeah.
What a number! Went to number one. How did you feel about all that?
It was great, absolutely great. It wasn't without its problems to get there because, of course, with Bill, we started the whole thing with Bill and rehearsed a lot with Bill, and it just fell apart after a bit, and we had to bring somebody else in. And we tried McCartney's drummer, who was great, and we tried a few drummers, and then we ended up with. Because we had Rick Rubin produce the album, who I'd never worked with before, or again. And, but he was talking about trying to find drummers from our era. I said, well, most of them are dead. Who are we going to have? And he was coming up with these different names. And I said, no. And we tried Jason Bonham as well.
Yeah.
And that didn't. He was a good player, but it weren't right for us, what we wanted then. So we ended up with the Rage Against the Machine drummer.
Yeah.
And he was good. He was very much like a Bill. Same sort of ideas. You like Bill as a drummer, and it was, so we had a bench. You
can see that actually when I was looking behind him. It was almost as like a young Bill. Now I quoted Lars Ulrich from your induction in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He said, "Without you, he would be still delivering newspapers." Now, without music, and what you've done, what do you think you would be doing?
Well, I'm delivering newspapers now. I actually don't know, because when originally, before I was doing music, I used to do boxing and judo and karate and all that. I was really into all that, and I'd done that for a long time, and I thought that was going to be my career. And I'd have these dreams about being on stage, but not knowing it was going to be music. And once I'd got bitten by the bug of the music thing, it got really heavy, and my training and everything went off, and the rest is history. I just went into that, but I don't know what I'd have done it without music.
Well, we don't know what we would have done out of it either. Now, we have this wonderful movie that we're all going to watch, The End of the End. And by sheer coincidence, it's unbelievable. The director is sat in the front row, Dick Carruthers. So, shall we welcome Dick up, please? Dick Carruthers.
Thank you. Did you notice he got up there without a step?
We've already, said about the rather patchy film performance. The
Catchy, not catty.
What brought you to this? Had you seen other Sabbath movies?
Of course, yeah. I've seen a whole bunch of stuff. Just being a fan. I think my biggest problem when the gig first became a reality was not to out myself as a fan unduly and approach it with a professional perspective. But yes, I'd seen an awful lot of Sabbath stuff. But what that did give me was, without being disrespectful of other work, wanting to say, right, well, let's get this right. Let's shoot Sabbath and make a Sabbath film in the way that they're... Very simple to say, let's make the film look like what they sound like. And that was the...
So it was rubbish then?
Just to have, when you listen to Tony's music and the Sabbath sound, the gear changes. Obviously the power, the rhythm, but the gear changes, the way they play, the way that Tony and Geezer look at each other, the way that Ozzy goofs it around, There's an awful... but the way that Ozzy works with the audience as well. I mean, talking about this incarnation of Sabbath at the end. And you know, those are the things that I always look for, and the way that you turn around and look at Tommy and, like, you know, the end of the song, the mechanics of it, but the sound of it, the way all of these elements. Forgive me if I'm stating the blindingly obvious, but, you know, these are the things that I look at and think, we've got to capture that, and we've got to shoot it in a way that it looks and feels like that, and I hope mission accomplished.
And Tony, had you seen anything Dick had directed before he got involved with you guys with the movie?
Yeah, we saw the Zeppelin
right.
film that was really good.
And I think it's fair to say Led Zeppelin are happy with the film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's really good. Yeah.
I have to ask you something actually. This story is constantly told in anything to do with Zeppelin in books, that when Robert Plant was offered the gig with what we call the New Yardbirds before they became Led Zeppelin, he didn't know whether to take the job or not. And he was crossing Birmingham Bullring and he bumped into you. And he apparently said to you,
I know this.
Do I take the job or not? Now, is this true?
Yeah, there was Iommi and Bonham, and they said, well, we've been asked to hook up with this guy, Jimmy Page, and do this, play with him, right? You know, we don't know what quite is going to happen. We're going to give it a go, and yeah.
As you do, yes.
As I did, yeah.
It
worked though, didn't it?
Chris, what you're saying is, if Tony hadn't have been happening to walk across the road from Bullring,
the Bullring,
right, you know, that certain other things had happened, we wouldn't have had either Black Sabbath or Led Zeppelin.
No. What would we be talking about? Nothing then, wouldn't we? Really?
I can't sit here and imagine going a life with it. That's a parallel universe, isn't it?
So, what was the sort of relationship like between you and the band in terms of stuff like the material to be played on stage and whatever?
Do you want me to leave, Zane?
Well, I was going to say they try and avoid me usually, and I was thinking, oh no, it's that fucker with a camera again. Every time we saw it, actually, we had some really terrific guys on tour with us, and when the thing came about, and I have to say it was Tony's idea, which I totally signed up to. We were saying, okay, if we're going to celebrate Sabbath and capture them, why not do the end? This was your idea, right? Was do the end gig. It was because there was talk about doing it almost a year before, and the message came down to me before I'd met and got to know Tony. It was Tony that said, no, we should do the last gig. If this is the end and it's the end of us touring, then we should do the last gig, and the last gig should be in Birmingham, all of which comes out in the film. I mean, that's sort of the narrative arc that we trace through it, is saying, okay, well, let's go back to where it began, and we'll shoot that. And so in respect of Tony's idea of that, and I said, because Sabbath were playing 2 nights in Birmingham with a day in between, so there was some budget considerations, and I said, you know what, it's got to be real. We can't shoot both nights and edit it together, as one sometimes does. It's got to be the last night. It's got to be real. If Sabbath fans, I got to know, I suspected anyway, and the band themselves, it's all about, well, it's not all about, there's a lot about integrity and honesty and giving what's real about the performance and the music. So I said, if we're going to make a film saying this is the last big gig that Black Sabbath are doing at the end of their end tour, then that's what it's got to be. So we're not going to cheat anything. Well, maybe a few crowd shots, but you know. And some of the guitar solos, you know.
Yeah, they got rid of all the solos.
There's a few mistakes.
But also, as well, the idea was, at first it was just to do a film of the show, and I thought, well, we've done that before, we need to do something different. Why don't we, which we'd never done shots in the studio and recorded it live, as we did. And I just thought that would be a good bonus extra thing, instead of just seeing the film, you know, to have us rehearsing running over some of the old songs that we don't play on stage anymore. Because, you know, for Ozzy, obviously, a lot of singers now, they can't reach those notes. And so, but if you do it a one-off, they can do it.
Well, I'm delighted that you did do that, because for me, and you guys can be the judge, you know, in fact, I'll be in the bar afterwards. Let me know. I think that really is the icing on the cake of the film. Of that, I don't think it's spoiler alert. That there's bits in the studio afterwards, where, as Tony says, it took a bit of convincing. It was like it wasn't confirmed until it almost happened.
It was just wonderful to see the wizard.
Ozzy didn't even know we were doing it.
That's true.
What's going on? What
are we doing on Wednesday?
There's a wonderful dialogue involving microphones and arses during it. Absolutely, conversation.
It's great, as you'll see. So,
it was just great to see because you didn't perform the wizard, did you? Very much.
No, we hadn't performed a lot of those songs. In fact, they're not all on the film because there was too much stuff, wasn't there?
There was. I mean, an abundance of riches, but it was incredible for me. It was another one of those Muppet moments where you think, is this really happening? I'm just going to do this, where I've got the band and the road crew together and said, look, I know that you play on these big stages, but the studio, the Angelic studio, was probably the size of this stage, actually. And once we got Tommy's drum kit in there, I said, well, the only way this is going to work on camera is if you basically stand about as far apart as we are, and we have a monitor for each of you, and you just stand and actually face each other and play like that. And of course, any one of the band could have just said, forget it. But but not at all. That's why. Bless you for doing that, because
it was good because Ozzy at first did say he didn't know exactly what was happening. Yeah. And he said, well, what are we doing then? I said, what are we going to do? Let's do a few songs, and what do you fancy doing? Let's do something we haven't done for a while. And make it, just do it.
And I had again, I think I couldn't possibly take the credit for the idea, because I suspect it was yours. You've seen a pattern emerge here. You're trying to take credit for Tony's
Paying later.
And but I was saying constantly, like drip feeding, particularly Ozzy, saying, and you are going to play changes, aren't you? Please play changes, please play changes.
Oh God, yeah.
And then you saying to me, no, the last time we played it at the Hollywood Bowl, it was like a disaster that I'd never ever want you to mention again. Oh, okay, I think I'm treading on some raw memories here, but I kind of kept on dropping it in when we're on tour and going, so when you do Angelic, this is to Tony again, when you play the couple of songs at Angelic, right, which you're going to do, right, definitely, changes. Yeah. And then it was suddenly all off because there was a crash. Do you remember we couldn't get a Mellotron? Geezer was like, all right, but you've got to get me a Mellotron.
Yeah, because
Geezer took a bit call everybody, just call get a Mellotron.
Geezer took a bit of a convincing, didn't he? Because he hasn't played it for... When we recorded that, I played the piano and Geezer played a Mellotron.
Yeah.
And then Ozzy sang, of course, but we haven't played that for so long. Well, the Hollywood Bowl was the last time we played it. And so Geezer doesn't play keyboards much, now. And so when it come to, we're going to do changes, he went, what? I can't remember it. And he's like, he's panicking. And you can see his face when he's doing it.
Yeah, there is.
Fear.
Well, you can, but you see, for me, again, spoiler alert, that's what is so beautiful about it, is that he's Geezer Butler, and yet he's nervous, and he's sort of playing it, and there's a few...
His hands going like this.
And then he plays one wrong note and sort of goes, fuck, under his breath, and you sort of look up at him like that, go...
Yeah, he had a face as long as bloody, I don't know what.
And yet, it's poetry, because... You are Black Sabbath, even with that a length of time and the terrible memories, as I have to say that happens. You sit down, you start playing it, and something magic happens. You're suddenly like, oh God, and that's it. It's suddenly there's magic.
Because the last time we played it was when I said the Hollywood Bowl. We had it was awful. I mean, we got a grand piano on the stage, and we got the Mellotron. And Geezer's like, we're sitting this side, really, and I'm playing here, so we're looking at each other. Sort of where Chris is, really. And Geezer's sort of, we're following each other. And the Mellotron, in them days, was made of loops, of tape loops. And we didn't even think about it, but the atmosphere at the California Jam being outdoors, it got so humid, and so the tapes, it all went out of tune. and we're playing there, and Geezer's going, should we stop? Should we stop? It was like, and I was just trying to sing to the pair of us. It was like, God, it was awful. And so I said, yeah, okay, ready, we'll stop. And we stopped, and we said, we'll never do it again. We never played it again.
And then,
Well, I'm glad you did.
yeah. The great thing also about the film is there's no archive in it. It's an interview really with you as you all are now, what you're doing, and there's no... Was that intentional? You didn't want to look back too much film-wise?
Well, again, there's a sort of by stealth. I think I had a meeting where suddenly it was all on. And I said, well, we've got to tell the truth. We've got to be, we can't just sort of be around and say, well, Tony, do you mind giving us a few words? And Ralph was there, and Sharon, and a bunch of other people, and it was suggested, well, go on the plane with the band. Just go everywhere with the band and mic them up. And I said, what? Fly around Europe on a private jet with Black Sabbath? No, I'm not doing that. I said, yeah, right then. If you insist.
Before we see the movie, there's going to be a break, but we've got some time for questions in a minute. I have to ask you, Tony, can you let us into any future plans that you may have, musically or otherwise?
Well, I'll die at one point. Well, I want to start. I'm still putting stuff together, still writing stuff. I mean, I put ideas down on tapes, and when all this nice sunny weather goes and it gets grim, I shall start going in the studio and putting it down. At the moment, my engineer, who I had permanent with me at home, he's doing Judas Priest's album, or he's just done it.
Great.
So now he's finished that, we'll probably start again and put some ideas down. I don't know what it's going to be yet, whether it will be an instrumental album, or I've been approached by a lot of people to do something with them,
Right. Anything with Brian May, do you think, in the future, because you get on really well? Yeah.
Yeah, every time I see him we talk about it, and that's about as far as we've gone.
Are you still doing the stuff with the church?
I done that one thing with the choir at the cathedral.
You should tell everybody about that.
Yeah,
So I did a track. It's supposed to. I met with the dean, who was a woman, the very reverend, and we met in a pub of all places. And it was really weird because she came in with her coat all buttoned up and everything, and I arrived there, and there was some fans in there. Anyway, we sat down at the table, and she took her coat off, and there's the collar. Religious.
They're going, it's all
They're going, what's going on? See me in there with a priest. And we just talked about it. She said, oh yes, it'd be nice if you could do something for... I thought, well, I can't write anything with a big heavy riff in. It's going to have a heart attack. So I said, I'll put something together if we can use the choir. And she went, oh yes, that'd be lovely, and so on and so on. So that's what we did. We did an instrumental called "How Good It Is," and it worked out really well. And the idea of doing it was to try and it was going to be the 300th anniversary of the cathedral. But of course, by the time the bloody choir had done their bit, it had well gone past the date we were going to put it out. So we ended up doing it just as a gift to Birmingham, and it became that really. We never ever actually released it on a record. It's probably on the internet.
And very important, obviously, very close to your heart, is Ward 19. Tell us about that.
Yeah, Ward 19 is the cancer ward, and since I was diagnosed and whatever else, and went through all the treatments, I got involved a lot with the different hospitals, and they asked me if I'd be patron of Ward 19 for the cancer, and I said, well, yeah. And so I've done a few things to raise money for them, and then we opened a new cancer unit about a couple of months ago, which was great.
This is why rock stars should run the world, not politicians.
No, I really... And it was a great thing to do, and I really enjoyed it. And I went around and seen some of the patients, you know, who were having the treatment, and are you all right? Okay, and all that stuff. And I went up to this one woman, this old dear there, and I went, hello, are you okay? Yeah. She said, who are you? It was really funny. But you know, they're lovely, and it's been. I enjoyed doing that, and so I've been involved quite a bit with the different cast and stuff.
Well, if someone had told me when I booked you in 1968-9 to support Manfred Mann Chapter 2 at Birmingham, 50 years later, we would be sitting here talking. It's been extraordinary pleasure to talk to you, and for you to come here as well and talk to us. Hopefully you won't set me on fire. Or Dick, don't set Dick on fire either. You know. Ladies and gentlemen. Question. Have we got time for questions? Yes, we have. We'll take one here. Yeah. Yes, sir. You need a microphone. Yeah.
Hi, Tony. What was it like touring with Van Halen? What was it like touring with Van Halen?
Touring with Van Halen. It was really great, and I had some really good. They were with us for 8 months, and I struck up a really great relationship with Eddie, and I still stay in touch with him a lot now. We email each other, and I see him when I'm in LA. If he's here, he'll come and see me. Brilliant. Great guitar player as well. Yeah, really great guitar player, and that's somebody who's done a lot for music.
What happens when you meet Eddie Van Halen? I mean, if you have a chat, or do you get guitars out and show each other?
We did once.
To me, this would be fascinating. Where you go, well, what do you do when you do that?
Yeah. I couldn't do what he does. I mean, it's bloody like. He's very technical, very does all.
Well,
I can't do that
tapping. Yeah.
And but he did. One time he came over and we had to play for a while together. He wanted to play. He said, "Oh, we used to play Into the Void." And we started playing Into the Void, and I said, "Oh, you're playing it wrong." Oh, he said, "I've been playing it like this all these years." And I said, "No." And of course, I showed him how to play it. I didn't ask him how he played any of his, because I wouldn't have been able to do it.
Oh, that's fine. Do you know, Into the Void, just as an aside, Into the Void, which you'll see in the film, a lot of people have said that it's their favourite track. Why? Answers on a postcard, but Into the Void in the film really.
Yeah, it's funny because that was again one of Eddie's favourites, and it was a good track, good song. But you know, these relationships we struck up from those tours, to go back to your thing, have lasted all these years, and he's one of my best friends, Eddie, and Brian May, of course. So it was great touring together, and they were new on the block when they came around with us, and they learned a lot from us. They'd be on the side of the stage every night watching what would get the crowd going, what wouldn't, drum solos, and then but towards the end of the tour, towards the end of the 8 months, they were basically doing exactly the same as us. They were doing the guitar solos, then the drum solos, and one night I said to Eddie, I said, "Hey Eddie, are you going to play a couple of tracks off our new album tomorrow?" "Hey man, you know." And I took him in my room. I said, "Look, you can't be doing the same, this sort of thing, you know, on the same show. When you do your own shows, great." And we've been, I say, friends ever since that.
I think we can, one more. Yes, got to be from Birmingham. Oh, sorry. One up at the back.
Tony, I beg your pardon. I'm interested to know whether Geezer Butler, when he wrote the lyrics for your songs, whether he wrote them down in their final form, or whether he wrote them down and then he tweaked them over time.
Yeah, he would. He'd write a rough thing, and then he would tweak bits as we go on. The last album we did, he was under a lot of pressure because Rick Rubin's going, "Have you done the lyrics yet? Have you done the lyrics yet?" And because of course, Ozzy's got to sing them, so he has to know and see if these words are good. He can fit that word in. So then they change. If it didn't sort of work with Ozzy's vocal bit, he'd have to change the word. So, but he'd done. It's the way we worked, and he was good at that. Really good at. He's a good lyricist as well as a great bass player, and you know, Ozzy was glad of it. I mean, Ozzy come up with a melody line, and he come up with some lyrics. Some lyrics you wouldn't want to hear, but no, it worked well.
Right, we'll take one more from Birmingham. Thank you. Yes, lady.
Question all the way from Birmingham.
Pardon?
I'm probably readdressing with the accent. Just a very quick question about archive. I wondered, with you sort of obviously having that period in the 70s living in the States, I would imagine it's either you or Geezer that might have kept a band archive of some description. Did you do that? Were you quite fervent about keeping an archive of any sort, not just recorded material, but just, you know, general sort of performance outtakes and stuff like that?
Is a lot of the bands that I've had the great privilege to work with, they're actually quite reticent, where the sort of drive is towards an album, or the drive is towards one, or even a tour or something. So all of the stuff that's kind of generated in the background, certainly that's true of, like, you know, I think Page used to have lots of stuff in his garage and it got nicked.
Yeah,
he was very bitter about that.
A lot of stuff.
Somebody stole some Zeppelin stuff.
Yeah,
but they don't want it out. You know, they want to be the bands want to be judged by what they would feel is their best efforts.
Certain things you just wouldn't. You know, you think, well, that's not good enough to release, and yet somebody would go, oh, I'd love to hear that. And in fact, there is something, I don't know where it is, we've done a thing with Zeppelin once in the studio. We've done a jam session. They came down to our studio when we were recording.
That'd be worth a few quid.
It would, when we were recording one of the albums, completely ruined our session. And we ended up just jamming around and and Bonham's going, let's play Supernaut, and we'd end up playing Supernaut.
Excellent.
And then we'd go into something, a jam, and Planted sing something. But I don't know where those tapes are. I don't know what happened. They'll probably show up somewhere.
Is there an archivist in the stage?
They're on sale at the time of market on the Sunday. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to find out a lot more, I'm sure you've all read this, there's Tony's best-selling book, Iron Man, which loads of things I just never knew. It's a great read. It was on the New York bestsellers list, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Just great. Ladies and gentlemen, I've run out. I'm a bit like Marlon Brando at Apocalypse Now. I'm all out of lines. Ladies and gentlemen, Tony Iommi.
Thanks for coming.
I think we're having a break now, aren't we? How long? Half an hour break. So.